Hello and welcome to Urban Longings. Well, this is a series which we have taken to a lot of cities, and we've covered a lot of ground on ideas on how to improve urban India and make it a better place to live in. But there's one important piece of the puzzle that we still have not addressed, and that is the environment. There's a how to improve urban India and make it a better place to live in. But there's one important piece of the puzzle that we still have not addressed, and that is the environment. There's a myth that environment actually is a luxury that only the rich countries can afford, but that is something that we will set right on this show today. Let me introduce my panel straight away. We're joined by Professor Abad Ahmed, who's ex-dean and current professor of management at the Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. He is also the chairman of the Aga Khan Foundation. We have Dr. Ajay Dua, who's the chairman of Arriva TND and also the chairman of HSBC Direct, Investment Direct, and also global advisor to many corporates, and he's also ex-secretary, the Union Ministry of Industry and Commerce. We have Mr. Suresh Prabhu, who's ex-Union Cabinet Minister for Environment and Power and chairman of the Council for Energy, Environment and Water. And finally, we have Mr. C.P. Jain, who's ex-chairman NTPC and director at Reliance Power at the ADAG Group. Mr. Prabhu, let me start by asking you this question. I was reading an article which said that 70% of the pollution in the cities that we have today comes as a result of traffic on the road. What is it that we can do right now to make sure that this problem does not exacerbate?
So you're absolutely right. In fact, most of the air quality pollution, which is causing many issues like public health, the huge cost on public health, because you inhale those toxics into your system, and then it causes so much of a problem for your body. So all of that is attributable to the vehicular traffic. We need to use clean fuel, no doubt. But the real answer lies in creating public transport system. In fact, in India, we have seen a very skewed public policies in favor of vehicular traffic, whereas the private vehicular traffic. Whereas 90% of the people don't use cars, maybe 95% in some cities don't use cars at all. Actually, what is really required is a public transport system. Good buses, good trains, maybe good underground system, maybe we'll have metros in some cities. We really need to do that.
Dr. Dua, you've worked in the government, you've seen this from the other side. How are you going to marry the two? You will have increasing people living in your cities and increasing number of people wanting to go in those cars. Already levels of pollution are not manageable. Where do we go from here?
I think it's a dilemma which, however, is capable of resolution. Aspirations to own a car, drive a personal car, can easily be married with going to work in a reliable, quicker public transportation system. And as Mr. Prabhu mentioned, what is the need of the hour is reliable, comfortable, convenient public transportation system.
And affordable.
And yet there's no investment that's going into this.
Very little is taking place, probably because we had kept all these public transportation sector in the public domain, which meant the government's domain, public in India, and we didn't quite open these sectors of infrastructure, including public transportation, to private participation. Secondly, coming back to the issue of people owning private cars, the world over, as we said, own many more cars, but they do have a system where anybody who has a private car pays a lot more money for its usage than we do. A third aspect which I thought I must mention at this very stage is that if we were to provide in our cities for dedicated bicycle tracks, people coming to work would probably prefer to go by bicycles.
Just to add one more supplementary to that, it's absolutely right that we really need dedicated corridors for bicycles. And also, in any city of India, we'll find more people walking on the road than using any mode of transportation, including bicycle, because for some of them a bicycle could be a luxury. So I think we really need to ensure that there are more walking tracks which are really could be used by those who want to walk.
But of course, one would have to see where these people are living and how far away they are from their place of work to make it actually practical to use modes of transport that are easily that could be easily used in countries in the West. I wanted to get Professor Ahmed in at this time. Professor Ahmed, you've done a lot of work with the Aga Khan Foundation for urban renewal actually. What has your own experience been in this area?
You see, I would like to say that the whole issue of environment is not confined, as you are rightly saying, only to the air pollution that is taking place because of the kind of concept of urbanization that is at the present stage we are experiencing. But coming to the point that you are raising, see, we have been involved in an urban renewal effort in the Nizamuddin Basti area, which is practically like a slum. But our concern is that in addition to the renewal of the urban facilities and infrastructure and all that, it is the transformation of the people and also the cultural dimension of the place that is to be taken care of. No change can come about in any urban living, or for that matter in any rural or any other living, unless the people involved are people of the community are involved in the whole process. And you must have seen that they have been very particular about heritage conservation, like the Humayun's tomb. You must have seen how the gardens have been restored. And in the Aga Khan Foundation has similarly done work in Cairo Park, which was the garbage dump of the whole city. They have converted it into the most beautiful park, and they have discovered also David's Wall there, which is several thousand years old. And now that place is humming with activity. People have been trained, lots of skills have been developed, and the whole ambience has changed.
Has changed completely.
Therefore,
we'll come back to more developments on that and what else the corporates can do. But Mr. Jain, I wanted to come to you. You've headed the biggest power producing company in the country. CO2 emission levels, we know India is growing 8, 9, 10%. Where do you see these headed?
I think in the context of CO2 emission levels, I think India's per capita emission right now is very low. And we know that in Copenhagen also India made a commitment that we will always be lower than what the world average is. But in the context of the large urban cities, I think the one aspect, as we were discussing, is the transportation, which is the biggest air polluter in the context of the environment of the big cities. But added to that, the other aspect which is quite important is that people who come to these big cities, who create these big cities, they come for the livelihood. Therefore, you will see that all these big cities have industrial segments also. Now, we will have to manage and plan in a manner where these industries have some kind of a pollution standards. And the other thing which is quite important is the waste management. The other thing is that when we are looking at the energy consumption, particularly in the context of power, that's the way I would like to put it, that
so there needs to be more efficient energy production.
We have to have more efficient energy production, more efficient energy usage, and I think visually as we see the environment.
Dr. Dua, you've been in that hat with the municipal commissioner's hat, and it's so easy for us to say from the other side that yes, I'm paying external development charges. What is the municipality doing? They're not making sure that roads are maintained, that the hygiene levels are maintained, that garbage dumps are cleared. Is it just a question of carelessness? Because we actually had Dr. Bedi on our earlier show who said that you need right people in the right place, but you actually need to make sure that there is integrity and that the people in their jobs actually do them. There is no absenteeism. That's the crux of the problem. It's not so much to do with systems, but it's really the effort that's coming in from the other side.
I think we need to keep in mind a somewhat broader picture. In India, there is no restraint on people to move from one place to another. And that includes movement, migration from rural areas to urban areas. Unlike China or elsewhere in the world where the numbers can be pegged, here the prospects of employment, the brighter lights of cities attract people to them. So what is required is that we create multiple centers of such bright lights and urban and employment centers.
Sure, that will spread out the problem. But still, Professor Ahmed, you know, the fact that the average Indian is very happy to keep his or her home clean and throw the garbage right outside the door, the fact that we don't have public toilets, yes, that's a problem, but still no effort is made to actually find the closest one that even still exists. Is it something that is so difficult, or is it just so easy to say that it's the population that's the problem, and you know, that's the root of all evil?
I think we need a different paradigm of, we need professionalism in our public delivery systems. And unless and until we do that in our law and our machinery, in our judicial system, in our other public services, our development into a so-called developed nation, I think that's at stake.
Find out where to invest your Diwali bonus on Investor's Guide, only on ET Now.
Brought to you by ASK Wealth Management. Over 25 years of managing wealth. Karutri Global Limited. At Karutri, the future is now. YourSingapore.com.
I'm on the west coast of Canada, in the province of British Columbia. Later I'll be showing you around here the resort on Sonora Island. Hello and welcome to Inside Luxury Travel with me, Varun Sharma.
Brought to you by Swiss International Airlines. Daily and non-stop to Switzerland.
The rising tide lifts all ships. So the emerging market ships will rise just as much as the U.S. ships, but the emerging market ships are in better shape.
Mark Mobius decodes the emerging markets on Market Makers, only on ET Now.
You've known me for a long time. Me too. Me too. Me too. I hope.
But there's someone very special.
Someone you've known all your life. A friend you can trust.
Just like the one we trust.
And who is always close to you.
Who realizes your dreams in just 5 minutes.
A friend as strong as the elephant.
Muthoot Finance.
Muthoot Finance, a Muthoot George enterprise.
Let's just hear what the people on the street have to say about the environment, how clean do they feel it is, and really what are the issues we need to address.
See, on environmental issues, it is something which both of us need to work together. The government has to do because it has the largest amount of resources. However, as they say, the government is as the people are.
Government has definitely a lot of work to do. So they cannot always hold a banner and say don't do this or don't do that.
I don't think government is only responsible when it comes to environment. There's only so much that a government can do. India as a country, I think our biggest problem which we have on hand is population. So no matter how much we provide, the consumption is far, far, far more. So we'll all have to come in, we'll all have to join our hands when it comes to environment.
So the big impetus is on us as citizens to actually do a whole lot.
I was actually adding something along the lines of what was shown. All that was mentioned by Professor Ahmed, very rightly mentioned, very rightly emphasized, I think will come about if we create an environment for much greater stakeholder participation in our city management. You would see the delivery system itself becoming more responsive. Democracy always has a price. It might delay decision making by an extent, to a degree, but I think it will be a more sustainable decision.
Adding to what Mr. Dua just mentioned, first thing I would like to say is that we have to deal with the issue of city and the environment in two different segments. The first segment is where you are developing new towns or new satellite towns. There the planning and infrastructure become of a very critical importance. The public participation is important, no doubt about it, and therefore it has to be a two-way traffic. And the initiative cannot come from individual. We have to recognize that the citizen will participate, but he needs to be provided with a forum, he needs to be provided for an opportunity and a mechanism whereby he can participate in that. That's very important.
Citizen associations, you mentioned about resident welfare associations. Those by themselves can come out with solutions which are pertinent to their own colonies and then go and seek support, if any required, to implement it. Or put the municipal corporation come and collect it.
You have responsible citizens who do it. This is an issue that you can see on the street. You don't even have to drive more than 1 kilometer outside your house to be able to see that there is absolute lack of any kind of good hygiene facilities, whether you have public toilets, whether you have garbage areas where people can go and dispose of garbage. But why doesn't it happen? The government is just not effective enough in making this happen.
Actually, there is a law to collect, to segregate, to recycle, and then to dispose of this. But of course, this cannot be done by the federal government, but it has to be not even by the state government, but by the local governments. But it doesn't really work. I think wherever it has happened, we have seen some change. Not that it has not happened anywhere, even in some cities in Bangalore, for example. Another very interesting thing that happens in cities of India are the contribution of the rag pickers. Anywhere, even in some cities in Bangalore, for example. Another very interesting thing that happens in cities of India are the contribution of the rag pickers. They collect almost everything. All of it gets collected by the rag pickers. They do a phenomenal job, scavenging through the and they try to get it collected. Nowhere else it happens. So they are, in fact, I would say, the environment agents of the world. They are doing this for the good of humanity, of course, and they get hardly paid. Suppose we use these rag pickers themselves, and they become some sort of an agents of the corporations or the municipalities, and they can be used more effectively.
This is where I want to bring in this whole point about, whether we're just talking green or we are doing green right now. People talk about the Environment Ministry, and quite frankly, I think the first thing people talk about is only environmental clearances. They really don't think of it as a ministry that is helping the environment in any way. So many clearances are needed, and that's where all projects pretty much get stalled. There's a big gap between actually talking green, wanting to do all of this. The intent is there, or is it just in pure speech? What needs to be done to translate that into action? There's a big disconnect there. Is it the government initiative that's lacking? Is it that the public at large need to make sure that the government does it, or is it a problem at both ends?
We really need to actually judge the effectiveness of an environment from a very clear perspective. One is quality of air,
which is
quality of water,
below acceptable level.
Quality of water, quality of land, and of course even the noise, because that affects so many of your sensitivities. So I think if you can develop a city parameter based on this, rather than looking the other way around of actually looking at it from the point of view of supply, rather than we can actually make sure how these parameters can be met. If you really go and then develop all your city development around these parameters, then things will change. For example, I've seen in no city in India, no city except Jamshedpur, where you can drink the pipe water, and this is ridiculous. And there is hardly any city in India where you get 24/7 running water.
Well, in Jamshedpur, it's a private water supplied by a foreign company which assisted the Tatas to supply the water.
But there is only one city, and there is no other city. But it has happened. So there is no. Now just imagine, how can we not have 24/7 when you have made investment in infrastructure? If every house is connected by the water system, that means that water system is designed to provide water 24/7. But if you are not giving that 24/7, the capital investment that has gone into it is getting utilized only to the extent of 5% if you are giving water only for 5% of the day, or 10%, whatever time you are getting it. So therefore, that should be other parameter. Thirdly, whenever you decide what activity should be allowed in a particular city limit or even urban areas, you should be very clear about the impact on air. That should be also very monitored. I know in most of our festivals in India and most of our places that we are normally frequenting, the noise level is again causing huge problem. In fact, we don't realize it because of slow poisoning. Many people lose their hearing ability, many people develop traumatic conditions, many people become more volatile, more violent because of this. So I think many issues have to be integrated into making sure that all the issues are addressed properly. But government is one agency. Government can do as much as the society wants government to do. So government and society must have some sort of understanding. I have seen where you find the highest level of environmental compliance are the cities where there is the highest level of environmental awareness. It is never possible that you can have a compliance by law. You can never have policing as a means of making sure that environmental awareness is put into the people's mind. It's other way around.
So where have you seen that in India?
In India, we've not been able to create, in fact, this is a very big contradiction. Unlike other parts of the world, India is the only country, not only but one of the most important country where environment is part of our ethos. Environment is part of our culture. I remember my mother would tell me when I was a child, now I'm definitely old, would tell me that why don't you go in the month of Shravan, why don't you go and get these four species of from tree, because she wanted to worship. Because of this, it was like part of my training in biology. I knew exactly what flower is available where, what tree is available there. Of course, those trees were also available during that time in city. But point I'm saying is this is part of our culture and ethos. We have digressed from there. We have moved away from there. That's the problem. So in fact, in India, awareness should be the highest because that's part of our culture. So how can we do this? In fact, one of the things that I had also started doing in 1998 was getting environmental education as part of a means of putting this into my life.
Brought to you by Religare Global Financial Services, growing with you every day. IBM, let's build a smarter planet.
I'm on the west coast of Canada, in the province of British Columbia. Later I'll be showing you around here the resort on Sonora Island. Hello and welcome to Inside Luxury Travel with me, Varun Sharma.
Brought to you by Swiss International Airlines, daily and non-stop to Switzerland.
The rising tide lifts all ships. So the emerging market ships will rise just as much as the U.S. ships, but the emerging market ships are in better shape.
Mark Mobius decodes the emerging markets on Market Makers. Only on ET Now.
When your time is precious, let the experts manage your wealth. ASK Wealth Management, over 25 years of managing wealth.
One last obstacle before they savor the sweet taste of success.
Next two rounds will probably decide the fate of this final.
But this could be their toughest challenge ever.
This is Tactical Play at Tata Crucible.
Catch the corporate final of the Tata Crucible Business Quiz 2010. Only on ET Now.
Brought to you by Tata Leadership with Trust. Additional prize courtesy.
One other area actually, that I wanted to bring out very quickly because we're running out of time is also other technology initiatives that many corporates have done in areas such as biomimicry, when you're trying to make sure that you are maintaining the environment in its purity even though you're coming there and getting more urbanization into the area. You have also ways in which you have to make sure that there is no erosion that takes place. You have counter trenching, you have hydro seeding, bioengineering. These are different technologies that have been brought in. Professor Ahmed, very quickly, have you any experience in this area from your foundation?
Actually, I wanted to come to one point before coming to that. You see that when we are, the real gap is in implementation and management that you are talking about, and awareness. Now, I think here we need to realize the importance of development of civil society. That means consisting of very professional NGOs and charitable organizations which take up this work, and many of our corporates, including NTPC, have done remarkable work in terms of environment conservation and so forth, and they have used lots of technological innovations in this process. So therefore I would like to emphasize that, giving you a specific example again, for example in Nizamuddin we have built very modern toilets. We demolished the old ones, built new toilets, and we have organized the community there to run their own toilets, and they have their own small committee, and they issue tickets to the customers and cards to the families and so on and so forth. They maintain the whole thing very clear, and it's entirely the responsibility of the community organization. So similarly, on all our work we use community-based institutionalize small groups, community groups, women's groups particularly, for bringing about a lot of change and awareness. And we have seen remarkable results in the rural development and and like self-help groups in education as well as in health and savings groups, etc., etc. So I think we need to use those kinds of instrumentalities to engage the citizens in the whole process of urban development and change. Now coming to the technology that you are referring to, very frankly I wouldn't have much knowledge on it. I think we must seek the views of our former chairman of NTPC.
Which you mentioned are basically a segment which is related to the this decentralized way of handling the environment in a better way. And that is again, somebody needs to promote those things and create an awareness about them with the public. But along with that, you have to look at the major pollution impact when you are looking at the city environment. And I think, as we discussed, one is the visually what you see in the city, and therefore there is the cleanliness, maintenance, and the management of the waste and other things becomes very critical. But when we are coming to the technology, I will again like to say that the technological use in the transportation, whether it's the fuel or it is that also will have to be, for example, we came with Euro 1, Euro 2 and Euro 3 like that technologies. The courts imposed in, at least in Delhi, that we must use a particular mode fuel for the public transport. These kind of technological inputs will also definitely are going to help.
The scope for technology is immense, both in existing cities and probably much more in planning in new cities. So just now that we have this concept of smart cities, of what are smart cities? Smart grids and electricity, that means the generation, production, carrying of electricity and usage of it is optimum. And there is technology available to have these smart grids, even smart distribution. You have smart IT networks which can be planned in communities and certainly in new cities, which is making use of IT in communication networks which get developed in the cities. So I think we certainly need to make use of technology which is available to us. We would need to spread our urbanization effort much more.
Thank you so much, and I would like to thank the panelists. And now that's the outcome. We've come to the close of this series actually, and really every discussion has always come around to the fact that we as citizens need to be extremely aware of what we need to do, our rights as well as our responsibilities. Going green versus talking green, that needs to be the mantra for new urban India. Well, we hope you've enjoyed watching this series as much as we've enjoyed doing it for you.
We decided to put together a panel to disassemble all the madness of 2010.
Catch the F1 season finale on ZigNews this week only on ET Now.
Brought to you by SR. Let's begin.
Nerolac पेश करते हैं Impressions Eco Clean, जो है बिल्कुल प्योर, न स्मेल, न धब्बे और न ही harmful fumes.
The world has recognized the strength India has. If you look at the ABCs of the industry, it's actually the PQR, best price, great quality, and huge amount of resources. To that we've added an S, which is security.
Watch Arvind Thakur talk about the requisites of success on Tea Time with Shelly Chopra only on ET Now. Rock show? College festival?
Idol show? Just gonna get a haircut, man. All barber shops here are closed today.
India Times Travel. Fares so low, everyone has an excuse to fly.
I'm on the west coast of Canada, in the province of British Columbia. Later I'll be showing you around here the resort on Sonora Island. Hello and welcome to Inside Luxury Travel with me, Varun Sharma.
Brought to you by Swiss International Airlines, daily and non-stop to Switzerland.
This week on the Leaders of Tomorrow series, catch the success of Health Biotech, Rajas Enterprises and Manish Textiles.
टोटल प्रोडक्ट रेंज की बात करें तो 40 के करीब हमारे पास अच्छे प्रोडक्ट हैं.
We are capable to make all the European designs which is almost acceptable in around the world.
आज हम लोग लोकल मार्केट में चीज बेचते थे, सीधा हम लोग एक्सपोर्टेबल आइटम में आ गए, न्यू माइलस्टोन.
Leaders of Tomorrow, only on ETV.
Brought to you by IndiaMart.
The rising tide lifts all ships. So the emerging market ships will rise just as much as the U.S. ships, but the emerging market ships are in better shape.
Mark Mobius decodes the emerging markets on Market Makers. Only on ET Now.
This is the Times Television Network, and you're watching ET Now.